All right, I'm back, Chris.
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
Welcome to Tech Las Vegas Motor Speedway for round number 7 of the Wind Tunnel Racing Series. I'm joined in the booth tonight by Chris Spear. Chris, we have a big race on hand tonight as these drivers just finishing up qualifying here at Las Vegas.
That we do, going into the race 8 of the series here with these Xfinity cars in the Wind Tunnel Racing. Jared, this track a little bit tricky early on with loose conditions here, makes things all that more enjoyable, means that you can make up a lot of time or lose a lot of time on any restarts that we may have here.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Chris, and let's take a look at the race information here. So we are going to be doing 100 laps tonight. Track temp is 69 degrees, 67 air temp, clear, no humidity out here in the desert, winds out of the northwest at 10 miles an hour. And let's take a look at our championship picture heading into tonight's event, and you'll see it there on your screen. Bernard Person leading over Jason Maines, Dean Doucette in third position, Chuck Sweeting, Jason Spear, your top 5, then Wilson, Flanagan, Bartel, Swope, and Glenn Jamieson, your top 10 in points. And it's been a heck of a season so far, Chris. We've had a lot of multiple different winners. But, tonight, you look down this list, and we got some new guys out there. Jeff Chandler making his debut, and I believe one other driver making his debut tonight as well.
Absolutely, Jared. A couple different drivers out here making their debut. That would be Mark Figueroa and Mike McMillan and Jeff Chandler. As you mentioned, those 3 drivers going to be looking to prove something here. Maybe not able to contend for a championship, but at least get out here and understand these other drivers that they're competing with, and hopes of joining for the season 2 for the Xfinity Series here. A lot of prove if you're going to get up here and run well in this series with these drivers. Tough competition all the way through the entire pack, Jared.
You're exactly right, Chris. And let's take a look after qualifying finishes up at our starting grid tonight here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Just having a quick technical difficulty, but we've got this straightened out here. And there we go, Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Russell Chernisky on the pole, 29.705 his lap. Dean Doucette, last week's winner, will line up alongside. Row number 2, Chuck Sweeting with a good qualifying effort after a poor effort last week. And Tim Bills will be alongside. Joe Flanagan and Jason Maines in row 3. Good qualifying effort from Joe Flanagan. Jeff Chandler on debut will be alongside Troy Torgerson. And rounding out your top 10, Chris, will be Chris Stouffer and point leader Bernard Person.
Behind them in row number 6, Stephen Vrooman, Mark Figueroa. Behind them in row number 7, Darren Bruce and Paul Schmallenberg. In 15th, Jason Spear on the inside. Outside going to be TJ Bartel in that number 80 machine. In 17th, David Phillips II and Rachel Hunt to his outside. Behind them and rounding out your top 20, Glenn Jamieson and Burt Wilson.
Let's take a look at the rest of the lineup. We've got Brian Helm and Ronnie Royal back there in row number 11. James Torrey and Josh Mayu making a return to the series back in row 12. Gil Gock and Adam Newton in row 13. And rounding out your field will be Case McMullen, Steve Loomis and Tom Lester in the number 55. He'll roll off 29th tonight here, Chris.
That he will. And Jared, this track, it's good, hard racing here. A lot of off-throttle time the longer you go into a run here, which makes these cars all that more difficult to find that balance between too loose, too tight, and everyone's been working on their cars. I watched it a lot in practice. A lot of different drivers were having an issue with the car stepping out behind them. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to hone that in during the race. During practice, you got to go all out, figure out where that line is, Jared. But now that we're in the race, you got to play it a little bit safe to make sure that you can make it to the end of this 110-lap event.
You're exactly right, Chris, and we will have all that action here tonight at Las Vegas Motor Speedway as the season rolls on here at Wind Tunnel Racing. Pace car about to make that turn off the corner. Russell Charnisky and Dean Doucette will lead them down. Some connection issue there at the start from one of those vehicles. There goes the pace car. It's going to be Dean Doucette on the outside. Charnisky controls. He's going. Green flag is out at Las Vegas. Dean Doucette didn't get going. 10 bills all over the back bumper as they head in to the tri-oval.
And that gave a great jump to that number 20 driver, Charnisky, as he's easily able to pull 3 car teams heading into one. But now closing back up, Chuck Sweeney in the 75, all the way back to his bumper. He got a great corner there.
Dean Doucette yaws it out, coming off the back straightaway. 3 wide for the lead.
Chuck Sweeney going on the inside of the 20. Dean Doucette going on the outside. Now it's 2 ways. Charnisky's getting really sideways coming out of the corner.
Charnisky almost looped that thing around. I don't think he was expecting to go 3 wide at the beginning, but he is going to go from the pole outside the top 10 in one corner, Chris. He's going to drop in underneath Darren Bruce.
That he is. That'll drop him down to 12th position, losing 11 spots in the first lap. Not the way you wanted to do it. But now Dean Doucette leads the field with a good, comfortable lead over Chuck Sweeney, 4/10 of a second now. Between those two drivers is another 4/10 back to Bills in the 37.
And what a start to this. It looked like Joe Flanagan trying to look there. Don't see any damage. Did look like he may have grazed the fence coming off of turn number 2 as Tim Bills works underneath of him. But right now, Dean Doucette with a power move on the outside to the lead, and Chuck Sweeting in second. Flanagan third with Troy Torgerson and Tim Bills breathing down his neck. Jason Maines under a heap of pressure from Jeff Chandler and looks like Chris Stouffer and Bernard Persson there.
Absolutely right. Bernard Persson in that 8 machine looking underneath Maines. Bernard Persson, the only driver in this series to have a top 5 in every one of these events. He's got to get up there and make his way into the top 5 to keep that streak going, and he's doing everything he possibly can in that 8 machine as he gets around Jason Maines in the 1.
Bernard Persson just sliding around there. Jason Maines sliding a little bit back right now as the 2 DSP drivers heading to the front. Chandler and Torgerson up 3 and 1 respectively. Darren Bruce up 4 spots. Part of Stingray Racing, he is up just getting around Chris Stouffer, who's trying to drop him back a little bit. Then we got Charnisky. I wanted to check in on him, Chris. Dropped 12 spots. Thought he was going to lead the first lap, but boy, oh boy, he got loose in turn number 3. Had to get out of it and lost a ton of time. He is now back in 12th position trying to chase down Stephen Vrooman.
That he is. It's going to be a hard-fought battle for him to get back up here and contend for this win. And these drivers, Jared, they don't like cautions here. They like to go green flag from start to finish. And that means you've got to do it all under those green flag conditions. Looking at the pit strategy here, looks like they'll only need to pit maybe one time for sure. That's not a lot of time to make up on and off of pit road. So you're going to have to be able to save your stuff if you're going to be able to be faster on a long run to catch the drivers in front of you.
Right now, battle for second, heating up just a little bit. Joe Flanagan in the number 53 has caught up to the back of the 75 of Chuck Sweeting, and there's Troy Torgerson also in this group. Apologies, that's Jeff Chandler. They have very similar cars. Jeff Chandler coming to the front, though. He is all over the back of Joe Flanagan right now.
That he is, using that low line to try to look underneath of Flanagan. Flanagan is looking to the middle to high lane to try to get a run on Chuck Sweeney. He's there. Now he's going to have to dive to the inside here, and he's going to pull along. Chuck, oh no, he decides to slide it up the track, Jared. That's going to pave the way for Chandler to get underneath Flanagan.
Looked like maybe Flanagan got tight there in the number 53 machine. and could not keep the car down. But that's going to allow Jeff Chandler to check into third position. Chuck Sweeting still holding on to second, but Flanagan trying to come back, but Bernard Persons now checked himself into the battle.
That he has now made his way into the top 5, looking to get into that 4th position to get around the 53 of Joe Flanagan. Looking to the inside, Jared. It's interesting these drivers choosing different lines around here, trying to figure out the best way to get around this track while maintaining everything that they possibly can as far as momentum. Person, though, going to draw up even beside Flanagan going into 1.
Person trying to get around Flanagan. Chandler does get around Chuck Sweeting. You've got Torgerson kind of sitting back here waiting along with Tim Bills. Battle back here for 8th position. Darren Bruce loose. Oh my goodness, he almost had that thing wrecked. He saved it somehow, and Chris Stouffer's that door is gonna open up for Stouffer.
That it is. Now Stouffer goes to the inside of the number 4 machine of Darren Bruce. Darren Bruce just lost that momentum, Jared. And this is one of those tracks where you've got to be able to keep the momentum up if you want to maintain positions here. Any little slip up here and you're instantly falling prey to the person behind you.
Chris, I wanted to talk about Jason Maines. We've seen this so many times. He's a great qualifier, but that early run speed is just not there for the number 1 car. He seems to come back, but is he giving up too much at the beginning of these races? I mean, he has dropped all the way back to 10th place.
That he has, Jared, and you talked about it. We've seen it week in and week out, but he still somehow finds a way to get himself back up into the top spots, at least in the top 10 every single week in that 1 machine. The problem is it going to be too little too late, Jared? We've seen this over and over again, not able to get a podium finish, able to get back up and do a pretty good job, but the problem is he's still losing time now currently with the 0-0 of Steven Vrooman underneath him, and Vrooman made it look easy, Jared.
Vrooman to 10th. And now Russell Chernisky, the driver that was set on the pole, didn't lead any laps though. He is now sitting there trying to make a move to get back, and Baines looks underneath Vrooman going into turn number 3. This is a battle for 10th position, and there is a whole litany of cars stacked up behind this group right now as they come off the turn, but Maines thinks better of it. Back up front, it is Dean Doucette. The gap to Jeff Chandler has not changed. It is 1.35, 1.4 seconds thereabouts between those two drivers. Chuck Sweeting having a little bit of connection issue. He is in 3rd. Then Bernard Person, Troy Torgerson, Joe Flanagan, Tim Bills, Darren Bruce, Chris Stouffer, and Vrooman, your top 10 right now. There's Chernisky looking underneath Jason Maines. That's a battle for 11th. Jason Maines continuing to fall back, Chris.
That he is, and that's just going to continue to hurt him, as it looks like he may have caught the outside wall there with Chernisky beside him. Now the 80 machine in the 03 of Bartel and Figueroa are going to go around as well. He is really dropping bad, almost out of the top 15, Jared.
And that is uncharacteristic for Jason Maines. 14th position right now.
And Jared, we mentioned that Dean Doucette had a 1.4 second lead. That lead is continuing to grow. No need to look at it as Dean Doucette is 1.7 seconds ahead of second place. He's kind of checked out on the field right now.
Yeah, he has. We look back here. Jason Spear, Paul Schmallenberg. They have both gotten around Jason Maines, who is continuing to drop back down 10 spots. Him and Chernisky, the drivers that have dropped the most. Then we got Burt Wilson, Dave Phillips the second, Ronnie Royal, Rachel Hunt, your top 20. Brian Helm hasn't really moved forward yet, Chris. I'm a little bit surprised in that 26 machine. He was so good at Homestead, but tonight the 26 machine's kind of been a neutral. Started 21st, and now it's 20th.
Yeah, just moved around Rachel Hunt there for 1 position, as you mentioned. Jared, it seems to be a track that he seems to be struggling at. Just doesn't quite have the speed that it seems like a lot of other drivers around him. And that may be, Jared, that he's just got that car so set up for a long run. We're used to seeing Brian Helm having that car sideways through the corners to make sure that he does have that long run speed. But even still, right now, it doesn't seem like he's that loose. So, Jared, it'd be interesting to see what changes he can make to that machine to break inside the top 15, top 10.
Look back, Adam Newton there in the number 2 machine moving forward. Rachel Hunt is dropping back. That is a teammate to Jason. She's down 5 spots. We got Gilgod, James Torrey, Josh Mayhew at the tail end here. Then we got Case McMullen, Steve Vrooman, and Tom Lester. That is your back part of the field right now. They're just kind of racing back here at the end. And Casey Mullen had a good showing, a decent showing in the Shenandoah Race of Champions last night. So fresh off that, and now Dean Doucette, his teammate, continuing to lead 2.5 seconds over Chuck Sweeting. And Jeff Chandler has started to drift back, Chris.
That he has. Bernard Person was able to make the move to the outside and get around him and bring Troy Torgerson in the 98 with him. It looks like Jeff Chandler may have been a little aggressive here on those tires to start this race and starting to pay the price for it now.
Dropping back, he got to second. He has dropped back to 5th position. His teammate Torgerson, though, up 4 positions. Looking underneath Bernard Person for 3rd position. He's going to take that spot, I believe, right here, Chris. Yes, he does.
And I believe Bernard Person said, all right, you're faster, let's not race, go get him, champ. And that's what he did. He let Torgerson go by, follows right in line with the number 98, trying to get around this track. You don't want to use and abuse these tires early on, Jared, but even within the first couple of laps here, it can really make a huge impact on your speed going into the 20-25 lap runs that we're starting to see now.
This is about a 14-15 car pack. Paul Schmallenberg at the very back of this pack. He is only 2 seconds behind second place, or third place, apologies. And so there's a lot to lose here if you get loose or get pushed out of the groove. There are a lot of guys back here. Big battle going on now as Jason Spear battling with Mark Figueroa for 13th. We also have Charniski battling with Joe Flanagan for 10th position. So Charniski, the pole sitter, trying to come back through the field. Flanagan, who started in 3rd, is dropping.
Yeah, Flanagan definitely was a little aggressive with those tires. He's kind of doing a different line than pretty much everyone else on the track. He's going to that high line, Jared, and I can only assume that that's what's hurting his tires.
That car might not be handling the way he wants it to right now, as he is going to let Bartel and Charniski go by. But up front, it's still Dean Doucette. Gap 2.5 seconds to Chuck Sweeting. Then we have Troy Torgerson, Bernard Person, and Tim Bills now in the top 5 as Darren Bruce, both him and Darren Bruce, I should say, get around Jeff Chandler. So Chandler dropping to 7th position. Chris Stouffer in 8th. Stephen Vrooman in 9th. And then we just talked about Charniski, who started on pole, got loose. If you're just now joining us, got loose, saved it, but unfortunately dropped Ole back to 14th. He's coming back for, got a little loose there off turn number 4, just ahead of TJ Bartel.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how he's able to make it back up. I was worried that that slide on those tires would make it almost impossible for him to get back up there. But what he did, Jared, was kind of just lay around and kind of let the racetrack come back to him and just save as much as he possibly could, knowing that he would be a little bit better off for it. And you can kind of see that's what's happening now. As TJ Bartel, though, is right there on the back of that 20 machine.
TJ Bartel with a good run through turn number 3 and 4. Trying to look under there, but at the same time, Charniski's kind of looking at Stephen Vrooman at the same time. Back behind them, we see Jason Spear underneath Joe Flanagan. That is a battle for 13th position. Flanagan continuing to drop back. Adam Newton has caught up to the back of this group. Or sorry, that's Paul Schmallenberg. That very similar paints as Schmallenberg also in this group. So Flanagan, the 53, may have clipped the wall early. I could have sworn I saw some sparks off that car. Maybe challenged right now, but Charniski, Chris, at the same time that's going on, Charniski getting around Stephen Vrooman, or trying to, for 9th place, and Chris Stouffer around Jeff Chandler for 7th.
Yeah, Jeff Chandler is definitely starting to lose the momentum out of that 33 machine, very much so similar to Joe Flanagan. And that's one thing, this is Jeff Chandler's first race here with these guys. He's not quite accustomed to what's going on around him with these different drivers and the strategies that they like to pull with holding back on those first couple of laps, and it's kind of hurting him. It's interesting to see, though, it's also starting to affect Troy Torgerson in the 98. He went around Person earlier, and now he's falling back to 5th.
Yeah, these Xfinity cars are the most difficult at this point in time cars on the service as far as oval vehicles, or not oval vehicles, stock car vehicles, I should say. I think the Sprint car and the Silver Crown are probably the most difficult oval cars, just to be clear on that. But you got to really drive these things differently than you do the trucks and the Cup car, Chris. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely. You have to drive this car on lap 1 so much different than you do on lap 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 like we're at now, Jared. So it's so much more difficult here because you've got to be planning not what your lap is that you're currently on, as Jeff Chandler really got that thing sideways coming out of 2. but you also have to keep in mind what you're going to need to be doing further down the line in the run, and that's what we're seeing here. The guys who were able to save those tires early on, they're really putting them to good use right now. I believe clean air is pretty important here, and Dean Doucette, he's really taking advantage of it now with a 3.5 second lead over Chuck Sweeting, who's got about 7/10 to Bernard Persson. So they're definitely spread out up front, and it's going to be really hard to make up that time on Dean Doucette. The only thing that might come into play here, Jared, as I'm looking at the track here, now he's pretty much got a pretty sizable gap, obviously, the second, but he's still about a half a lap from catching lap cars, and we're at lap 28 right now, going to 29. So it'll be interesting to see if we catch up to some of this lap traffic after a round of pit stops here, if that will hurt Dean in any way.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. And the battle for second is kind of where we're at right now as far as that goes. I mean, it's pretty close. Second, third, fourth, and fifth all kind of close together. Then we got Darren Bruce off the back just a little bit. Chris Stouffer there. Charnisky and TJ Bartel making quick work as Jeff Chandler. Oh, Charnisky loose off the corner, comes down in front of Bartel, and Bartel had to let off just a little bit there to not run into the back of Charnisky, or at least it looked like it. Could be wrong about that, but the drivers continuing to make it work as we go on lap number 29.
And Jared, you mentioned TJ Bartel, up 7 positions on the start here. Started back in 16th, now up to that 9th position, working on the 20 car. Kind of been following along for the better part of this run. Both he and the 20 have made their way back up through the pack. And it's interesting to see really what these drivers are doing now that the long run's coming in. We got Darren Bruce. He's also up 7 positions, up into 6th place. Bernard Persson, our points leader, up from 10th now into 3rd, so 3 positions as well for him. Interesting to see how these drivers are choosing to run this track here and how it's playing out for them.
Yeah, TJ Bartel, just to finish up there, very good at saving tires. Steven Vrooman has been he's been passed by about 5 cars, but he's also passed about 5 cars, Chris. He's been started 11th, but 10th, is now currently running 10th, and I feel like we've talked about him being in the thick of the battle, but he's been in the same spot all night long.
That he has, Jared, in that 00 Black Rifle Coffee machine there. It's interesting to see how these drivers, different drivers, falling off. Jason Maines back to the 16th position there. Joe Flanagan started 3rd. He's now all the way back in 21st. He's going to have to do some pretty drastic changes to that machine to be able to make a comeback here.
And Joe Flanagan down 16 spots. Jason Maines down 10 spots. Glenn Jameson down 6 spots. And Rachel Hunt down 8 spots. As Jameson's 25th, Hunt is 26th. Off the back, we got Loomis, James Torrey, and Tim Lester is about 3 seconds off the back of the main pack. So Tom Lester just trying to figure it out. Oh, he smashes the wall coming off the corner. So the 55 machine not having a good night of it, and I think he may have been in the wall before that. Maybe heading down to pit road. We'll have to check in on that. But up front, it's Dean Doucette continuing to dominate here, having led all the laps from the beginning. But the battle for second place, Chris, starting to heat up. Bernard Persson slowly reeling in Chuck Sweeting.
That he is. Got that lead down to 0.3 tenths, Jared. These drivers, for 3 tenths, they're really doing everything they possibly can. You can see Bernard Persson maybe a little bit faster. He's been closing it in. Now got that lead, the gap down to 0.2 seconds. Or 0.2 seconds on Chuck Sweeney in that 75 machine. It seems like Chuck Sweeney, he had a really stable car here. It started, I believe he started 3rd, if I'm not correct there, Jared, correct me. And really was able to get up into that 2nd position after a little bit of help there from the 20s getting sideways. But now Bernard Persson, though, he's reeled him in. He's kind of done the thing that we've watched Bernard Persson do all season long, which is slowly make his way towards the front. It's kind of been the little go-to mantra of that 8 machine, and we're watching it right now as he puts the heat on Chuck Sweeney for 2nd.
Bernard Persson up the track to the high side, trying to find a little bit of grip there, and just can't quite get the run off the corner that he needs. Chuck Sweeney doing a good job holding off Bernard Persson, but it's still early in. We still have at least one pit stop in this race. Definitely one. I don't think it's a two-stopper here tonight for most drivers, but there's the battle for second on your screen. Tim Bills is a little bit off the back there, and Jeff Chandler has come in, or sorry, that's not Chandler, that's Russell Chernisky has come in from 10th position. Chris, this is an early stop, and Joe Flanagan.
Flanagan also, these two drivers who had issues early on in the race, Flanagan, who we saw was falling off here, electing to try to come in, maybe use a little bit of tire strategy to maintain positions here, or rather to better his positions.
So this is very interesting. Chernisky and Flanagan, both drivers started first and third tonight, and they're the first two drivers on pit road. Both of them have had different stories of how they've got there, but right now it's all Dean Doucette. But the battle for second place still heating up as Tim Bills, you see the battle box down the bottom right-hand side, he is catching up to this battle as Bernard Persson finally makes the move around Chuck Sweeting for second.
Yeah, Chuck Sweeney didn't put up much of a fight. Jared just kind of got over in the high groove, let Bernard Persson go. He knows he's a little bit faster than him right now and just needs to race the track. Darren Bruce, though, he's also coming up. We mentioned it. He's now up in that fourth position, plus 9 spots.
Road, Chris, apologies. Tim Bills and Troy Torgerson pitting. So, Chris, I think this is a two-stop race.
I
wow.
think so. It looks like it, Jared. These drivers now are playing the tire game. You want to have fresher tires if possible, and that's really going to force the hand of a couple of these different drivers, and it'll be just interesting to see how much longer Dean Doucette elects to stay out, given that these drivers are pitting, because you know as well as I do, Jared, the longer you stay out, the more time you're going to end up losing to those fresh tires.
This is unreal. I thought, typically 1.5 mile tracks, Chris, they got, 55 laps of fuel, but we have some strategy takers here tonight, and we'll see how that works out. There's Bernard Persson. In between Dean Doucette and Bernard Persson is Joe Flanagan. He is the second car. Actually, our timing score has not updated, and here comes Dean Doucette, the race leader, calling the bluffs of the two stoppers.
That he is. Went 40 laps, Jared. It looks like he's going to split it into a two-stop race easily here for the number 29 bunch. And it'll be interesting now to see how long Persson, Sweeney, Bruce, Stouffer, those drivers within the top 5 decide to stay out before they come to pit road.
I have to say I'm shocked. I mean, I would have bet money that this was about 50 to 55 laps, that somebody could do 55 laps here tonight on fuel. And maybe the tire's just wearing out too quickly for these guys, but we'll have to see. We'll see how this thing transpires. I mean, we still have a lot of ways to go. We haven't got to halfway yet. But these guys on older tires, Chris, we look at the last lap time, 32.07 per person. His best lap, a 30.29, not to confuse anybody. So about a 2-second fall off right now is what we're looking at.
That it is, and I believe Jeff Chandler had an issue on pit road and is serving a penalty, Jared, as he has made his way back to pit road.
Chandler, I'm not showing that he has pitted yet. That was... Yeah, this is his first pit stop from what I can tell, Chris.
And now it's just a waiting game to see how long until the number 8 elects to come into pit. If he's going to split it into a one-stop race, Jared, he's got to get to lap 55. That seems like a long time to be out there.
But you look at these pit lane times, Chris. I mean, 45-second pit lane time. That doesn't include...
And he's coming in, Jared.
Oh, man. I think if you could stretch it, and we've got Jason Spears, teammate, coming in as well back here. I think if you can make it to 55, you've got to make it to 55.
I think at this point, definitely. It just seems like a strategy game here tonight. It's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out and who elects to make it to one stop versus a two stop. Now Chuck Sweeney, he takes over the lead from Persson to be with a 1.9 second lead. Behind him is Darren Bruce in that Ford machine. So the 75 stayed out this lap, Jared, to try to get another lap led, I believe. But again, how long? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see as we got numerous drivers that are electing to come down to pit road. Now Gil Gott also on pit road.
Well, Chris, I wanted to focus in on Jason Maines, who's been in a gaggle of traffic. Did Jason Maines and Brian Helm, we talked about these guys kind of being off pace at the beginning of this race. Are they playing 3D chess out here, 4D chess out here? Did they know that they had to save some gas at the beginning?
I mean, absolutely, that's a possibility. And now you can see it. The one machine is able to get around. Had to go 3 wide there as Mark Figueroa in the 03 elects to come down to pit road with Brian Helm. They get it sorted back out, but that's going to be such an incredible strategy if that works out for these drivers. But it also means, Jared, you cannot have a caution in this race. That's a lot to bank on.
No caution. Right now, it hasn't been that way. Mark Figueroa, the last driver on pit road. So right now, as we sit right now, 18 drivers have elected not to pit yet. Chuck Sweeting, who qualified in second place or third place, he is still there. Wow, we got a big battle back here. That's Bernard Person coming through. Jason Maines on your screen there, and my goodness, Brian Helm and Casey Mullen had to take a little bit of an action because Bernard Person was coming through whether they wanted him to or not, and he goes by fairly easily. Then we got Dave Phillips. He's up to 8th place currently. Stephen Vrooman in 7th. Ronnie Royal in 6th. Paul Schmallenberg. Shout out to Paul in the top 5 right now. TJ Bartel, Stouffer, Bruce, and Chuck Sweeting, your top 10 drivers. Casey Mullen just now poking his nose into the top 10. As we said before, 18 drivers have not pitted. Tom Lester being the last of those right now. But Chris, I mean, we're about 8 laps away from it. Chuck Sweeting's the driver. I have to think that this is not going to play out for him if he can't make it.
No, it'll be interesting to see. Looking at the lap times, though, Jared, the last time by, Dean Doucette, who was our leader before this started, was running at 30.3, 30.4 lap times. Now you go to look at your leader's time. The last time around, Chuck Sweeting 32.1, 32.2. So some substantial fall off between these drivers. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. He's still got to go another 7 laps to be able to make it on one stop.
There's Chris Stouffer in 2nd. He's in the same boat. And Darren Bruce also there. These guys, they didn't seem to be saving. Jason Maines and Brian Helm, they were very far back off the pace, and I kind of feel like those guys might have been playing a little bit of a saving game. We always have to count in Casey Mullen is a driver that's always looking to save and figure out, different strategies on fuel or tires or whatever the case may be. So no surprise that he's up here as well. But, I kind of wonder about these guys, 4th on up.
Yeah, absolutely, Jared. It's going to be interesting to see those top 4 right now. They've got a pretty sizable gap between them and Dean Doucette, but the problem is they're losing 2 seconds a lap. I mean, 2 seconds around this 1.5 miles is pretty substantial when you think about it, Jared.
Yeah, it is. But the other thing you got to think about, 90 seconds worth of pit lane time that a 2-stop strategy is. A 1-stop, 45 seconds. I mean, that's a rough estimate. So it is somewhere between 45 and 50 seconds, somewhere between 90 and 100 seconds for a 2-stopper. And if you cut one of those out, Chris, I mean that's a lap. That's a lap and a half around here.
That it is, and you got to think, Jared, they're going to have fresher tires. That means that they're going to be able to run all that much more hard than those drivers on the 2-stop for a while. Then it'll end up shifting directions to those drivers that are electing to take the 2-stop approach, which we'll see those drivers start to hit the pit road around the late 60s, early 70s as far as laps. But still, Chuck Sweeting staying out. Bernard Persons unlapped himself, as has the number 20 machine as well. So now Chuck Sweeting still has a bit of a buffer between him and Stouffer, a 1.6 second lead at the moment.
There's Chris Stouffer battling with Darren Bruce. That was awfully close through the corner. Darren Bruce had to get out of it. So Stouffer trying to hold off Darren Bruce and TJ Bartel at the same time as trying to move forward. So, and there goes TJ Bartel underneath Darren Bruce. But you got to circle these guys. 3 or 4 laps is all they need to make it to the end. 23 cars have not pitted yet. Or sorry, that is not true. 18 cars have not pitted yet. Tom Lester is getting past. He has not pitted yet in the number 55 machine. But Chris, this is getting down to crunch time for these guys. Can they make it to lap 55, lap 56?
I think they can certainly make it, Jared. I mean, at this point, if you were running this long, you knew that you could make it. Otherwise, you were kind of setting yourself up for failure. What I'm concerned about is the drivers that are farther behind. I mean, right now, your top 4 are within 2 seconds of each other, 2.5. But then you got Schmallenberg in the 90 machine, Ronnie Royal in the 24. Those drivers are that much farther back. And seconds behind your leader, they're not making up any ground either, Jared. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out for them. I think for your top 4, this might end up being a pretty good net, but for everyone else, it's going to be pretty close.
We'll have to see, because those, like you were saying, Chris, these other guys, you expect them to kind of come in on lap, somewhere 66 to 80, depending on their strategy there. So they have that opportunity to have fresh tires at the end, and that can be big. Paul Schmallenberg didn't quite make it, Brian Helm also on these guys, making it right to 55 and heading on to pit road. Schmallenberg was in 5th. Helm was in 9th at the time of pits. Chuck Sweeting at least going to go one more lap. We'll keep an eye on our race leader. Doesn't appear like he's going to come in this time, and he's not.
No, definitely not, Jared. It's interesting to see the lap times that he's putting down, as we do have a few other takers on pit road. As Chris Stouffer, Darren Bruce, Ronnie Royal, Stephen Vrooman, Taylor Phillips, Adam Newton, all these drivers heading to pit road.
Ooh, Adam Newton locks up the rear tires. May have come close to speeding there, but drivers starting to enter the pay window. Burt Wilson, Steve Loomis, Glenn Jameson, all on pit road. Apologies, that is James Torrey. They have very similar cars, so one day I will get it right. There's Glenn Jameson. He is still out there. So right now we have 7 drivers, and Glenn Jameson, one of these drivers that hadn't pitted yet, Chris, he's already gotten passed by Dean Doucette.
That he has. Now Chuck Sweeney leads TJ Bartel, Casey McMullen, Jason Maines on the pit road, Josh Mayhew as well. That's going to turn the lead back over to Dean Doucette.
And Dean Doucette passing these guys as they come on pit road. Everybody on, so that's it. We have a 1-stop strategy and we have a 2-stop strategy right now in play here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This is great stuff. I did not expect that to happen here tonight. Typically this track very straightforward, but you see the pit lane stops right there. Dean Doucette on 39, Person on 42, Bills Torgerson on 37, Charnisky on 35, Spear on 42, Chandler on 40, and Gil Gach on 42, Figueroa on 44. Chuck Sweeting looks like he is going to come out in about 10th or 11th spot.
And Jared, one thing that we've not mentioned since we came from the first round of green flags pit stops here, Dean Doucette, that lead has grown now to 7 seconds over Bernard Person.
Yeah, that's a massive increase. And Dean Doucette was the first guy on pit road, so there is that going for him. So he does have the advantage of having some fresh tires at the beginning of the run. Bernard Person has the fresher tires currently on the track by about 4 laps. So we'll see how that kind of flips the script around. But all these drivers you see in the top 10 currently, all of them have elected to pretty much do the 2-stop strategy. Darren Bruce, the leader of the drivers on the 1-stop strategy, getting on pit road and off pit road. But that's the battle for a potential win right here between Chris Stouffer, Darren Bruce, and even Chuck Sweeting, who's kind of dropped off the back of these guys.
That he has. Definitely didn't have quite the speed coming in and off of pit road as Darren Bruce and Stouffer lost a lot of time. Those drivers, when they pit, Jared, were a second and a half behind Chuck Sweeting. So definitely a lot of time lost there for Sweeting, as he's going to have to battle to get back up around those drivers. And at the moment, we got Dean Doucette, your top 8 drivers. They're going to pit here in a couple of laps. And Darren Bruce, he's already starting to pass a couple of those drivers, move him up to 8th, 24 and a half seconds behind your leader.
Darren Bruce just got around Mark Figueroa. That is for 8th place. Jeff Chandler is 5.5 seconds ahead of him, and Jason Spear also 6 seconds ahead of him currently. So that's kind of what we're looking at as these 3 drivers, the 4, the 13 of Chris Stouffer, and Chuck Sweeting, you see at the bottom of your screen there in the blue car. Those are the 3 drivers leading on the 1-stop strategy. TJ Bartel also on the 1-stop strategy, but he is in 14th. He's got 3 drivers he's going to have to pass. Schmallenberg, the first of the 1-stoppers in on lap 54, has not paid off for him right now, and nor has it paid off for Brian Helm in 21st and Jason Maines in 22nd. So tough going for some of those drivers right now on track. In fact, 17 drivers on the lead lap. Dean Doucette just got unlapped by Ronnie Royal, so Ronnie Royal getting himself back on the lead lap. But Jason Maines, Brian Helm, these guys are a lap down, Chris. I'm kind of surprised.
That they are. We talked about it. It was going to be a pretty hard game for them, being as far back as they were, to net any positive outcome. Of course, we haven't seen those top 8 drivers, or now it's the top 7 plus drivers make that pit stop. So we know that that's going to drop them behind this entire group. So to be able to continue that momentum and be able to net a gain off of it, those drivers, they're going to have to conserve their stuff right now in the beginning part of this run so that they don't ruin the car for the last part of this race. Otherwise, it's not going to matter if you took 2 stops or 1 stop. The 2 stop guys are going to blow by you.
You see some of these guys getting around Dean Doucette. Vrooman, Phillips, looks like Brian Helm, looks like Casey McMullen all back here. That is, they're just trying to get back on the lead lap. As you see Vrooman go around the race leader to get himself on lap. And, Dave Phillips loose off the corner. He's going to go around Dean Doucette. So is Brian Helm. Looks like Casey Mullen's going to follow suit. So all these drivers getting back on the lead lap. And this is costing Dean Doucette time. That gap to Bernard Persson has come down to about 6 seconds now.
Yeah, just under 6 seconds, 5.7 to be exact. Bernard Persson definitely running a little bit faster lap times than your leader at the moment. So the last couple of laps was running about 1/10 to 2/10 quicker, but that last lap, Jared, as you mentioned it, 4/10 he took off of that lead.
There's Tim Bills, Troy Torgerson, all these drivers on the 2-stop strategy along with Chernisky, Jason Spear, Jeff Chandler, and their battle for the 1-stop lead has gone to Chuck Sweeting. Chuck Sweeting just getting around Darren Bruce. Now remember, Chuck Sweeting stayed out the longest of anybody, so lap 56. He has 1 lap newer tires than Darren Bruce and Chris Stouffer, and he wanted to take advantage of that, was able to get around both of those drivers in a couple of laps. So he is in 8th place, about 2 seconds behind Spear and Chandler now.
And he's definitely running the fastest lap times of anyone on the track, Chuck Sweeting, that 75 machine. Problem is he's still 19 seconds behind your leader. Granted, there's that pit stop that we know is coming, Jared, but it's going to be that much harder, and it looks like Flanagan's going to be the first of those 2-stoppers to elect to go to pit road.
Now, let's flip this thing around. A lot of times on 1.5 milers, we see 55, maybe 60 laps. Is there a possibility that there could be some other drivers doing a 1-stopper here that just came in early? As you see Chuck Sweeting go underneath Jeff Chandler, who got loose off the corner, and Darren Bruce going to follow suit. So Chandler on that 2-stop strategy, dropping back some positions here. Chris, is there a possibility somebody like Dean Doucette could stretch this thing out for 40 more laps?
Even if you could stretch it out, Jared, I think the fall off in the tires, as we've seen, has already been too dramatic that it just would not be a viable option here. Certainly not if you're Dean Doucette. Now that doesn't mean if you're not Bernard Persson, Tim Bills, Troy Torgerson, that you don't try to do that, because if you this point, those drivers, they're kind of in an all or nothing kind of race. I mean, they don't have anything for Dean Doucette. If they're going to pit at the same time as him, that's still 5 seconds, 9 seconds that they're going to have to make up. So why not try it, or at least go as long as you possibly can. Maybe come in for just 2 tires and fuel to get you to the end.
We'll see what happens here as this race goes on. My goodness, battling back here as Chuck Sweeting slices his way through some traffic here, getting around Jason Spear. So Sweeting, 16 and a half seconds behind Dean Doucette. Now, Chris, if you're Dean Doucette, what are you thinking in this situation? Do you go like hell right now, or do you kind of maybe try to conserve a little bit? You know, what is your thought process knowing that you probably have to come down pit road and Chuck Sweeting's taking about a half a second a lap out of you?
I think if you're Dean Doucette, you're trying to figure out when exactly you want to hit pit road. I think you're going like hell right now. I mean, Jared, there's no other option for him at this point. Kind of made his bed. He's got to deal with it. But I think he's got to figure out what the sweet spot is. You don't want to wait too long to go in, because you're losing so much time that when you come back out, it's too great of a distance to be able to make up, even with the fresh tires, But you also don't want to come in too early that you allow Chuck Sweeting to continue to pull away from you and gain that much more time. So it's a really delicate balance here for Dean Doucette, deciding when it is that he's going to come in. But Jared, I think it's going to happen within the next 2 or 3 laps.
We're seeing what Dean Doucette is going to do right now. The gap, Bernard Persson's caught up to some, I wouldn't say lap traffic, guys that are passing him to try to get maybe their lap back. Glenn Jamieson, James Torrey in this group, Steve Loomis. So he's actually lost a little bit of time to Dean Doucette, or it stayed stable. It's 5.5 seconds right now. It was down as close to 5 seconds, but Bernard Persson started to kind of drop back a little bit.
That he is, and you mentioned it. Maybe there's that strategy of going just one stop, even with going that pitting that early. I don't know that it's going to be feasible for Bernard Person, but you never know. I mean, we've seen crazier stuff here, Jared.
Yes, we have, and it has definitely been an eventful night. If you're just now joining us, Russell Chernesky grabbed the pole, took the lead, and led the first 3 corners of the track, got loose in turn 4, dropped all the way back to 14th position. Dean Doucette led from lap 1 on from the 2nd position. The race has gone on. We have, we thought was a surefire one-stop race tonight until Dean Doucette and a couple other drivers decided to make it a 2-stop strategy. So we have a mix of strategies. Right now, the top 5 are on the 2-stop strategy, and Chuck Sweeting, Darren Bruce, Christopher, 6th, 7th, and 8th are on the 1-stop strategy, or so we think, as we are now down to 35 laps to go here at Las Vegas. What a race it's been, and can we see maybe a new winner here tonight, and maybe somebody playing the strategy game right to their advantage?
Dean Doucette coming to pit road, Jared, on lap 74. He's going to make the dive to pit road, giving the lead to Bernard Person. Person staying out, but now this sets it all up. We know exactly what's going to happen after this point. Torgerson in 8th also coming in.
And that also will put Wilson and Loomis, Glenn Jamieson all back on the lead lap. That'll leave Lester Hunt and Joe Flanagan as the only drivers off the lead lap currently. But my goodness, this is going to be interesting. Who is going to come in next? It is Troy Torgerson from 4th place. He is on pit road.
And Bernard Person did not come to pit road that lap. He had a car unlapping themselves in that 17 machine, and that's why he stayed out. He kind of could not get to the bottom of the track, as it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to come within the next lap or so. You don't want to stay out too long, as we talked about it, as now Chernesky and the 20 machine hits pit road as well.
Russell Chernesky for Wheeling and Dealing Racing coming in pit road. Rachel Hunt going around Bernard Person to get one of her 2 laps back, and Bernard Person hard on the brakes. He's coming in to the pits, and there goes Dean Doucette by to get his lap back. So Bernard Person on pit road, nobody following suit. Tim Bills now takes over the lead. Bernard Person still the only driver. Shocked. Jeff Chandler didn't come in. Schmallenberg didn't come in. Jason Spear didn't come in. So we got some early guys coming in here.
That we do. Looking at the pit strategy here, it looks like a couple of drivers are electing to make this a little bit longer run. Tim Bills certainly one of them. His first stint was 37. This one now going on 40 laps as he stays out this time. He's going to be the last one to come in. Try to use fresher tires to get to the end here, Jared, and make the most of them. We've seen how much they matter here, but now he's got Chuck Sweeney within a second of in his mirror. So Sweeney may end up taking the lead before Bills can even make it to pit road.
Yeah, and there's Chuck Sweeting right now. We just saw the stint links that Chris was talking about. Tim Bills at 40 laps right now, and he is braking. He's coming in right now. Ooh, that is aggressive entry, but he is going to get it woed down just in time. So Tim Bills on pit road. Doesn't look like he sped, so that's going to leave Jeff Chandler, and he comes in now. So that's going to leave Jason Spear and Mark Figueroa as the late calls on the 2-stop strategy. Gil Gott comes in as well from 15th position. So the lead back over to Chuck Sweeting. Now Dean Doucette has 32 laps to get around, about 10 cars.
About 10 cars, but also Dean Doucette 24 seconds back from your leader. But that time is dwindling, Jared, as we can look at it here over the next couple of laps. He's definitely putting down faster lap times than Chuck Sweeney, who's also got to deal with cars that have got fresher tires trying to get around him.
About a second quicker is Dean Doucette than Chuck Sweeting that last lap. Let's see what it is this last time by. And it is going to be a 31.89 for Chuck Sweeting. Dean Doucette a 30.36, so a second and a half. Let's do the math, Chris. 30 laps to go as you see Jason Spear come down pit road from 4th position. 30 laps to go, about 24 seconds. I think Dean Doucette's going to catch him fairly easily if this comes to fruition.
Seems like easy math to me, Jared, but it's all going to come down to what happens on the track. Obviously, he's got the speed to get there. At some point, hopefully these tires will equalize if you're Chuck Sweeney fans, but I don't know, Jared. I don't think it's going to work.
This is going to be very interesting, and of course, we definitely know that Dean Doucette's not going to gain a second and a half, 2 seconds every single lap. So it's, we think it's going to be close at the end, not a guarantee that Dean Doucette's going to be there, but my goodness, Bernard Persson trying to get back around these race leaders, and him and Darren Bruce almost contact through 3 and 4. Darren Bruce does let him go, but he doesn't want Chris Stouffer to get around him, as the top 3 are under a blanket here.
That they are, make it more complicated than it even is to begin with a strategy. You've got 3 of the drivers that are on the same strategy that we know aren't pitting right here. 1, 2, 3, and just 3/10 separating first from third.
Out of these top 3, Chris Stouffer, the only one that has not won. We also have TJ Bartel on this strategy. He has not won yet. Schmallenberg has not won. Royal has not won. All in the top 5 right now, top 6. As we continue, under 30 laps to go. We think that these guys can make it no matter what. I don't think there's any fuel kind of problem for these guys. Dean Doucette, though, is 18.5 seconds behind this battle for the lead. And if they get battling, Chris, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt him, isn't it?
That it will, Jared. These drivers, they need to stay single file. Either that or the 2 behind Chuck Sweeney need to keep battling and hold up those drivers coming, so that he can just keep pulling away. That lead is slowly starting to gain from first to second, now up to 4/10.
There's just Stouffer off the corner trying to get underneath Darren Bruce. This is a battle for their second position. There's Troy Torgerson. He is a driver a lap down, trying to get back on the lead lap and gain some position, so he is going to complicate this just a little bit. Torgerson not really anywhere he can go right now except 3 wide down the back straightaway, as Stouffer was able to clear Darren Bruce just in time.
And Jared, we mentioned that the strategy that could come into play here. What about a caution? Talk about mixing things up. That erases everyone's strategy here, as we know just how critical tires are. I would assume that pretty much everyone would come down to get another set of tires if they got them. So a caution here could really change the complexion of this race.
Torgerson gets back on the laps. If there's a caution, Tim Bills would be the lucky dog. That would trap Chernisky, Chandler, Spear, Hunt, Gauck, Figueroa, and Flanagan all 1 lap down. So they would have to take a wave around if they wanted to get back on the lead lap. Now Stouffer has cleared Darren Bruce and set his sights on Sweeting. 25 laps to go. Dean Doucette, the gap, 15.5 seconds. He's going to catch. He's just past Jason Maines, who definitely did not bring the car tonight, or had an issue or something happened with the one machine. He has just not been his normal self, and it has been tough for him tonight. Dean Doucette just getting around him. Brian Helm is the next driver up. Adam Newton also up there as well in the top 10. Dean Doucette's going to be in the top 10 here in about, 5 laps.
Absolutely, Jared, and it's going to be a hard-fought battle, but not for him. I believe he's going to end up being your victor here tonight, even though he's so far back right now. Unless we get a caution to really stir things up, he's certainly got the speed, and I don't know that you can block that hard to keep him behind you.
23 laps to go, and he's got a battle in front of him. Dave Phillips and Adam Newton, they are battling right now for 9th position, and that's going to slow him up. And that's the thing too, Chris. You talked about it. Dean Doucette can come through the field at a good clip, but these guys are also still battling for position. He is passing drivers for position on the track right now.
That he is, and interesting to note, Bernard Persson kind of on the same strategy as Dean Doucette. He's still way farther back. He's back in the 16th position. He's faster than the drivers that he's around, but he's so much farther back, almost 10 seconds farther back than Dean Doucette.
And Troy Torgerson also on that same strategy in 19th. Tim Bills in 21st. Chernisky 22nd. Chandler 23rd. Jason Spear 24th. All on that same strategy. So we'll see how this goes on the 2-stopper. Some of these drivers, Rachel Hunt, very early 2-stop strategy. Gil Gauck, the same thing. Joe Flanagan and Tom Lester, all the same thing. They have been kind of probably at this point in time out of the race at this point as far as a good points finish, as they are trapped 1 lap down. But right now, 20 laps to go. Dean Doucette 12.5 seconds back, so he's going to have to gain about 1.5 seconds a lap to catch Chuck Sweeting.
And interesting to note, looking at the lap times, the last time by Chuck Sweeney as he comes to the line here ran a 31.8, Jared, 31.836. Going back to catch Dean Doucette as he goes crossing the line here. His time would be a 31.298. So it's definitely quicker, but that's not quick enough anymore.
I don't think that is. I mean, that's only looking at about 6 seconds, which would put him around 5th place that he would be gaining at this point in time. So that is going to be difficult. The problem for Dean Doucette is not that he doesn't have the speed, and you'll see this lap he had clear traffic. He's going to get around Schmallenberg pretty quickly. This is going to be a pretty good lap. It is going to be a 31.38 to Chuck Sweeney's 32 flat. So 0.7 a second, but he just hasn't had clean track because he's coming through at such a clip. But he does have Casey Mullen and Ronnie Royal up here battling for 5th position. Good runs for them on the one-stop strategy. I mean, this thing is really panned out for those two drivers who started all the way back in 22nd and 27th respectively.
Jared, I think we're terrible at math. Dean Doucette, no matter what, would still catch Chuck Sweeney at that pace. Looking at it, he would actually be able to get up there with 18 laps to go. He would be able to get almost a 3-second lead over Chuck Sweeney at the current pace. But a lot of things can happen. He's got traffic he's got to get around, and as he gets closer and closer to Sweeney, it's going to become more difficult to pass. Even with those fresher tires, these drivers, they're now on that same strategy as Chuck Sweeney. They're not going to pull over and let Dean Doucette go.
Yeah, and you're right about the math. We were doing it upside down. We're doing upside down math in the video. So yeah, it happens. But yeah, Dean Doucette, you're exactly right. I think he's going to catch him. Here in the next 6. Yeah, you're right. He's going to catch him with about 6 laps to go. From my math, Greg. Is that right?
Yeah, that's definitely right. Now it all comes down to lap traffic, who's going where, and if Chris Stouffer gets up here and starts racing with Chuck Sweeney, as these two drivers, they're almost side by side in the corner here, and that's going to make it all that more easy for Dean Doucette.
And that's going to be these guys have to know that Dean Doucette is coming, but it is 9 seconds back. He's still got to get around 5 drivers on the lead laps, and don't forget as well, Jeff Chandler is trying to get his lap back, so there's some things that are going on right now that some drivers trying to get back into the groove here as well that are going to play a factor. But Chris Stouffer trying to go for a win. He hasn't gotten one yet, part of Stoufland Racing, and these guys here tonight really brought the piece, the equipment, and Chuck Sweeney has given it everything to try to hold him off. But lurking in the background is Dean Doucette, who did not have a great lap that last time by, Chris.
No, he didn't, and still 9 seconds behind your leader. And Chuck Sweeney, though, he's also starting to struggle. Right now, the second place car, up until that lap, Jared, and even that lap, but just barely, is the second place driver, you're fastest out of the top 3 here. So interesting to see what's going on. TJ Bartel, he's also closing in. That gap back to TJ Bartel at one time was over 5 seconds. It's now right at 4.
0.2 is all Dean Doucette gained on the race leader that time by. So this is not over for Dean Doucette, but he is not making up the pace he was for a long time. They could have just used those tires up trying to get back up there. On the flip side, he is the only driver on the 2-stop strategy that has made it into the top 10. He gets around Ronnie Royal. Now he's the only one that's made in the top 5. Bernard Persson is in 14th position, Chris. Troy Torgerson is in 16th position, or 17th position. These guys not moving forward.
Not at all, Jared, and it's almost going to be too little too late. 13 laps to go. Now Persson, he stayed out a little bit longer than Dean Doucette. He's running a little bit faster lap times than Doucette at the moment, but it's still too little too late. I don't think he's going to be able to get up there and battle. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, this is the driver that's had a top 5 in every race this season, who's currently now in the 14th position.
Yeah, this is not a strategy that looks to have paid off for Bernard Persson tonight on the 2-stopper. The good news is his closest points rivalry is Jason Maines, and that's a driver he is about to pass right now. The bad news is this is a battle for 13th between our top two drivers in the points.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. And Jared, our math has now changed completely again with the lap times that Dean Doucette's putting down to Chuck Sweeney. He will not catch him. Now it's showing that he will still be about 4 seconds behind your leader when we cross the start finish line. So something's got to change here. Did Dean Doucette run too hard too soon and just not let this car come in? And he's really kind of hurt himself here.
Yeah, this is an interesting change of events. It looked like a sure-gone conclusion. Now, we obviously knew that he was not going to be able to keep up that 1 second, 1.5 second pace. But even at, the clip that he was going and even the natural degradation of the tires, you figured he was still going to get closer than 8 seconds with 10 laps to go. And he is just not really making any moves at this point. Now, he did have to get around Ronnie Royal and Casey Mullen. And these drivers are for position. They're not going to bend over and just let him by. So at the same time, a lot of things going on, but my goodness, it has been a topsy-turvy race. At the same time that's going on, Chuck Sweeting was able to fend off the challenge from Chris Stouffer. That gap now down back to a half a second.
Darren Bruce maintaining the third position, 2.2 seconds back behind your leader. TJ Bartel, 4.3 seconds behind your leader. And then Dean Doucette, 8.44 seconds behind your leader. He's got to get a whole second a lap, Jared, and looking at the times, that's just not going to happen.
Second and a half is not going to happen. So you're exactly right. I mean, he's going to have to start putting down laps of life, as what I like to call them. 4/10 of a second, not going to get it done. So it's going to be between Stouffer and Sweeting, and right now Sweeting starting to check out from Chris Stouffer. Stouffer actually had to get around his teammate Flanagan, and he's also getting caught by Jeff Chandler. Who I don't know if Jeff Chandler is going to press the issue here against these leaders and try to get his lap back. Chuck Sweeting is trying to catch up to Glenn Jamieson, though, to put him a lap down.
Yeah, Glenn Jamieson right in front of your leader there, the 63 machine. He's definitely costing Chuck Sweeting a little bit of time, Jared, but not enough, I think, to matter at the moment. Chuck Sweeting, with those older lap tires, he's okay. He's pretty content just following someone else around here for a minute.
Glenn Jamieson goes to the high side, so that's going to open the door for Chuck Sweeting to go around on the bottom. So now that leaves us with 21 drivers on the lead lap. Bernard Persson was able to make quick work of about 3 drivers. He got around Maines, Helm, and Newton. He is now a second behind Dave Phillips for 10th position. Looking at the lap times, I think that he could get to 9th, but I think 8th and above are going to be a tough, tall order for Bernard Persson, who led about 10 laps here tonight.
Currently running a 31.792, and the drivers in front of him not running quite as good. To be able to get up to, let's just say, the 5th position, which is Dean Doucette, he would have to be running a little bit faster than that. Dean Doucette's last time by was 31.967. So Bernard Persson a little bit quicker, but not quick enough to get up to that 5th position.
Yeah, and you look at the battle for 6th position, Casey Mullen and Ronnie Royal going at it. These two drivers started pretty much at the end of the field. In fact, all the drivers really in the top 5, except Chuck Sweeting, started, and Chris Stouffer started outside the top 10 tonight. As we continue to watch this battle rage on, Casey Mullen trying to get around Ronnie Royal for 6th position. Dean Doucette about a second up the road, and he is checked out from this group. Royal a little bit loose off the corner as this battle continues to rage on.
And now Royal able to clear McMullen in that 71 machine and get that thing solidly there in the 6th position with McMullen behind him. But they definitely were side by side for quite a while here, Jared.
Chuck Sweeting the gap up to 0.8 of a second as Chris Stouffer is behind Glenn Jamieson, who gets loose off the corner. Almost could have been heartbreak for Chris Stouffer there, and Stouffer going to be able to get around Jamieson finally right now. But this battle for the lead pretty much over. Really the only battle on the track is between Ronnie Royal and Casey Mullen. Bernard Persson able to get around Dave Phillips, so move Persson at least into the top 10. We've got Brian Helm, Adam Newton, and Jason Maines all kind of together, but not really fighting yet, as we're down to 2 laps to go at Las Vegas.
2 laps to go in the second lead over second. Chuck Sweeting definitely played the cards right here, Jared, to be able to make this race on a one-stop race. This is kind of the way you and I would have planned this race. We talked about it earlier that this is what we thought would be the winning move here. Kind of surprised us both when those drivers elected to come to pit road, but now Chuck Sweeney going to run around to turn number 4. He sees the white flag. 1 lap to go at Las Vegas.
1 lap to go. Presented by Pay to Win Setup Shop. Check those guys out at paytowin.com for all your setup needs. They do NASCAR, SK Modifieds, late models, you name it. They've got it over there. Check out those guys. David Lamb does a great job at Pay to Win Setups. Final time through turn number 3. Chuck Sweeting leading the race 1.1 second, trying to get his 3rd victory of the year. Coming off turn number 4, nobody's around him. Chuck Sweeting is going to be your victor, rolling the dice in Las Vegas to grab the win. Chris Stouffer will grab 2nd position, his best finish of the year. Darren Bruce 3rd. TJ Bartel comes up just shy of a podium. Dean Doucette will grab 5th position. Royal holds off McMullen at the end for 6th. Schmallenberg comes home with his best finish of the year in 8th, just ahead of Vrooman. And Person can't quite get to Vrooman. He's going to come home probably a disappointed 10th place finish.
What a gamble by these drivers up here. Sweeney, Stouffer, Bruce, Bartel, making this strategy work, Jared, at the end. They're the ones that play their cars right. They're going to leave here with the best positions here made up.
There is Chuck Sweeting grabbing his 3rd victory on the year after a disappointing race last week. He rebounds to grab the win. And you know, Chris, I wouldn't even say they rolled the dice. I thought that was the optimal strategy. I didn't think there was any 2-stop strategy on the table tonight. So I have to say the guys that went for the 2-stoppers, those are the ones that gambled and didn't come up right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an impressive strategy here. I mean, we talked about it. These 4 drivers in the top 4, we talked about this is the strategy we thought would win. And Jared, we were kind of proven right here, and that doesn't always happen for us.
No, we're going to take that win. We're going to take that win and put it in the column. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll hear from our top 3 finishers and preview next week's race here on Wind Tunnel TV. Welcome back to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where Chuck Sweeting grabbed the victory in kind of surprising fashion, I guess. I mean, he did the one-stop strategy, the conservative strategy, and came up the winner here tonight. Chris Stouffer comes home second. Chris Stouffer comes home second. Bruce Bartel Doucette, who dominated this race, comes home fifth place tonight. Chris, a little bit disappointing for him.
Absolutely. Played the cards the wrong way, and the house won tonight. And right now, the house belongs to Chuck Sweeney in that 75 machine.
Yeah, exactly right. And let's get into our interviews here tonight. And we'll start off with Darren Bruce, the driver of the number 27 machine. Coming home third, Darren Bruce, congratulations on a solid run. And you picked the right strategy tonight.
Yeah, I was kind of iffy on it, and I got about 30 laps in, and I got to looking, and I said, I'm going to make this, and I'm going to try it.
So let's talk about that. I mean, you started 13th position, so you're a little bit back, not, kind of midway in the field, right? What did you think coming into this race? Did you think the two-stop strategy was on the table at all? Was it always a one-stop strategy? I mean, we saw some guys making some decisions, and me and Chris in the booth, we thought this was a one-stop strategy the whole time.
In some test runs I did today, I seen I could make 55 laps, so I was hoping, but I was going to wait, get about 30 into it and see where I stood and go from there.
Well, you did a good job. You kind of held around there, and then you came out with the de facto lead. You came out ahead of Chris Stouffer and Chuck Sweeting, and you guys battled there for the end. Did you think that, even though you were battling for 10th at the time, did you think that was a potential battle for the victory at the time?
I did not. I was figured I was going to wind up around 5th, 6th, 7th, somewhere around in there. So I was pretty happy.
Well, Darren, you had a great run. You had a victory earlier this year, so not your best finish after winning at Bristol earlier this year, but this has got to be a good pump in the arm for you as you head into the next race.
Oh, absolutely. It's after the win, I had a couple rough runs, and then I was out for a couple of weeks over the holidays. So it's nice to get back and running toward the front. Anyway, nobody had anything for Dean. He was the class. He was definitely faster than all of us.
Yeah, and Dean Doucette leading 85 laps tonight. But we head to Darlington next week. How is that number 4 machine for Stingray Racing going to be doing at the Lady in Black?
Well, we hope we'll duplicate this and be toward the front. We're hoping so anyway.
Well, Darren, always a pleasure to talk. I'm going to turn the mic over to you and let you have the last word on your race tonight.
Thanks a lot. I just want to thank Dean and TJ and Brad and the guys that worked on the setup. I didn't have anything to do with setup. They did all the work on it. I'd been gone a while and came back in, and they kind of let me in on it. But it's all about those guys. Those guys were the one that did this set.
Well, there you go, Chris. Darren Bruce with a solid third-place finish here tonight, and I believe you've caught up with our runner-up here tonight, the driver of the number 13 machine, Chris Stouffer.
That I have. Chris, gotta ask you, coming into this race, you had only had one top 5 finish at last week at Michigan International, but came into this race here. What was the thought process? What was the strategy behind what you thought it was going to take for this 13 to get up here and end up in kind of the money spots, if you will?
Well, honestly, I didn't know what to expect really coming into the race. My main focus was just to have a good run. I've missed a few races here and there, and just trying to battle back in points. So I just wanted a good finish, and then throughout the course of the race, I saw people pulling off and doing a two-stopper, and I looked at my fuel at that point, and I'm like, well, I think I might be able to make it the halfway, and sure enough, I was able to do that, and just came back out, and it was me, Chuck, and I can't remember his name, all of us right there, number 4 car, and we're just racing hard, and I just was able to pull off second place. I had nothing for Chuck, though. I'll tell you that. He drove away with about 10 to go.
I was about to say, at one point it looked like you were going to be able to battle that number 75 machine there with just over 20 laps to go, but weren't able to make it around him. What is it that you needed to be able to get around that 75 machine?
new tires, probably. That would help because I used every bit of tire and every bit of track, everything I could to keep up with him. And, it was one of those deals where he just started to pull away from you, and there's nothing you could do about it. I think he was saving a little bit more than I was for most of that stint. And, he was in the place to do that. He was up setting the pace, so he was able to kind of slow down, and I was right there on him, thought I had a chance, and he just found another gear and pulled away. So my hat's off to him. He did certainly won this race.
Next week we head to the track Too Tough to Tame, Darlington. What can we expect out of this 13 bunch heading into that race?
Hopefully another good finish. That's one of my favorite tracks on the service, and I typically run good there as long as I don't get caught up in anything. We've got a great bunch of guys here, as is seen in how many green flag races we have in these long green flag stints. So hopefully, it goes green there, and I'm able to avoid any shenanigans and stay out of the wall too, and hopefully I can bring home another good finish.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, anyone you like to shout out, fans, friends, anyone that helps get this number 13 to and from the virtual track each week?
Well, I'll give a shout out to Joe Flanagan, my teammate, for helping me this week, and Dean for putting the league together, and thank you guys up here in the booth. It's nice to watch the races, and you guys do a good job.
Thank you very much, Chris. This week, P2. Next week, one more position higher. Get you a win in this series. We'll be watching. Best of luck to you next week.
Thanks, man.
And it looks like you've made your way down to victory lane here with that driver of the 75, the gambler, Chuck Sweeney.
I'm down here with Chuck Sweeting. I wouldn't call it a gamble tonight, Chuck. You played the strategy, you picked the right one, and you come home with a victor. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you have to run these races in this league as if there's not going to be any cautions, and that was the case again tonight. I can't speak highly enough for the drivers in this league. It was slick out there, and everybody held it together, gave each other room, and that's how I approached the race. Just try to make it on one stop, and it worked out for me tonight.
So I asked Darren this, was the two-stop strategy ever in play in your mind tonight, or was it always one-stop strategy for you and the 75 team?
I was talking about it on the pace lap with my teammate Gil Gawk, and we thought that it was going to be close one way or another, and about halfway through that first run, I thought, well, if I can save a little bit, I think I can make it, and that might pay off, because I didn't have anything for Dean on speed. He was just faster than me on speed, but so I said, well, if I can't beat him that way, then I'm going to try to beat him another way, and I saved fuel and made it to halfway, a little past halfway, and then just kind of cruised home from there. So, it was. I wasn't sure before the race, but once the race started, I knew what I had to do.
Well, Chuck, you did a great job. And you were the only driver that qualified in the top 5 to do the one-stop strategy. All these other guys behind you, they gained 10, 15, even 20 spots here tonight. Did you think you were taking a risk by doing the one-stop strategy? Did you think Dean Doucette was going to be able to make his way through the field and come back at you?
I thought it was a possibility, and I kept watching him on the standings to see how far back he was. And I think maybe traffic and what have you probably hurt him a little bit, because he didn't have that traffic in the first half of the run because he was leading. But I don't know. I gotta give a shout out to Chris, though. I think he was like one adjustment away from winning this race tonight, because he made me really work the last half of that race, and I finally pulled away from him a little bit the last few laps. But man, what an awesome run he had tonight.
Well, Chuck, you're the season leader in victories, and now you're kind of getting sort of back in the point battle. How are you feeling heading into Darlington next week on the schedule?
I'm excited about it. Darlington is a fun track to drive. It's tough. I love racing there. I'm usually pretty good there, so I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm hoping we can make it 2 in a row next week.
Well, Chuck, congratulations. I'm going to turn the floor over to you and let you have the last word on your race tonight and give out any shout-outs you got out there.
Just thanks, as always, to my teammate Gil for all the work he does. Updated paint scheme this week, looked a little bit sharper on the track, and maybe that's where the speed came from. But of course, Dean and everybody with the league for all the hard work they do. It's greatly appreciated. And man, I don't think I've ever been in a league that is this clean and runs this good. So this is there's quite a future for this league. So I'm really looking forward to what's to come.
All right, Chris, that was our victor tonight. Chuck Sweeting, the season leader in victories, getting it done here tonight at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
What an incredible race. Green flag from start to finish, Jared. Can't ask for a much better race than that if you're a driver here. Really shows that you've got to be able to think outside the box. Chuck Sweeney said it best. You got to plan these races as though you're not going to get a caution, and that's what he did here tonight to get the win. And a few other drivers electing to do the same thing, working out for them. But then Dean Doucette led 85 laps, Jared. 4 positions not in his favor for that strategy.
And let's take a look at the point standings to see how that shook out here tonight. Bernard Persson continuing to lead. He is going to have that lead go up to 27 points. Dean Doucette catching up to Jason Maines now, and Chuck Sweeting also there. Only 14 points separate second through fourth. Fifth place is Jason Spear and Burt Wilson in sixth place. No real changes after that. TJ Bartel is in seventh. Darren Bruce jumps up 4 spots to eighth. Vrooman and Flanagan, your top 10, and Chris Stouffer up 3 positions as well into 11th place. But the teams will be heading to Darlington Raceway next week. We'll have all the coverage on Wind Tunnel TV starting at 9 p.m. next Thursday night. Hope you'll join us for that. And we'll also have Kickin' Asphalt back on the airwaves. They're going to be in action tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. You'll hear myself and Dean Doucette on the call as those guys get back after the Christmas break. But for tonight, Chris, you can go ahead.
Jared, next week, looking forward to that race at Darlington. It'll be hard fought battle for everyone. These drivers are going to have to keep it clean. Darlington, probably a little bit more difficult track than Las Vegas. Be interesting to see if we can go green flag there from start to finish as well. With these drivers, I'm not betting against it.
Yeah, I'm not either, Chris. It's going to be great to have all that action, and I can't wait. Darlington's one of my favorite tracks on the year, so we'll see how that race goes on. But that's going to do it for tonight from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. For Chris Spear, I'm Jared Carr. We will see you guys out on the track.